Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Shout out to Malika Mebani for coming through on Cash App, and shout out to S. for coming through not only on Cash App but also with the news and the links, and also to Senor Kanga for coming through with the news and the links. I get so many between them that, as I stated before, I have to read them and then sort of zoom out to get a clear picture and see what's going to affect us most in terms of international news. In the process of doing this, there's something that jumped out at me on Thursday. And my wife and I had a talk about this yesterday because my wife always says, well, you got to go easy on the students here because this is Saudi, it's their country. And I'll say to her, well, the system wants us to actually train them and teach them and not just give them what they didn't earn either. And she said, yeah, but you can't be too tough. And so we go back and forth about this. Now, granted, there is a balance, and my job is pretty clear on what the balance is. Be respectful and fair to them, but by the same token, record what they've actually earned. Not more or less, but what they've earned. Record those points for them, plug them into the spreadsheet, and the grades will come from that. And that's fair. So with that being said, my wife, the love of my life, and I have these discussions, and I keep having to tell her again, see, you make me repeat myself because I already told you that we've already talked about this, and we have these rules already in place, and this is what they want, and this is what they've said, and we can get in trouble if we give them free grades they didn't earn, mark them present days that they're not in the class. It's just like we would get in trouble if we wrongly gave them lower grades than what they earned and marked them absent when they were in the classroom with us. They're not playing with either one. Our boss is not playing around about either one. Now, there's some leeway. Some things are up for discretion, but there are other things that are just pretty much clear cut. We've actually been told to grade them very strictly in the beginning so that they can get the proper feedback about what the hell they're doing and what they're not doing. And I've told my students that in the beginning, every mistake that they have in the feedback that I give them from their writing is not a reason they lost points in the beginning. In other words, I'll correct certain things for them and still not subtract the points in the beginning of their writing. But I still have to tell them, hey, this is wrong. Do not repeat this. Then when they repeat it, I go back and I say, yeah, nigga. Yeah. See, you keep doing this shit. Yeah, nigga, you won't stop. You repeated the same mistake. Yeah, see, I got you on this assignment here. I told you about that. This date, I told the whole class about that. Yeah, you better not do that. And what do? Exactly what I said not to do. And I told them to take their writings and run them through a particular website that would actually help them out to fix what they wrote. It's not even Grammarly. But I'll tell them about Grammarly too. And I'll tell them you might have to pay to get a certain number of corrections done. Go ahead and chalk up that money to those sites. Go ahead and do it. I probably should invest in them now, but once I have investments in those sites, I can't promote them anymore. So I say to them, I tell them, and you can imagine how many times we have to tell them the same things because they don't listen the first time. And they come back, same mistakes, and they're not fixing anything. And I've told students before, don't ask me to mark you present when you're not in the classroom. Don't even ask. And what happens? One of the worst English speakers in my class, who doesn't belong at this particular level, sent an email to me. He sent a message to me in a messaging app and said, can I leave early to go to my hometown today? And I said, nigga, you ain't got to ask my permission. But you absent. He said, well, I'll wait till you finish the attendance and then I'll leave. And I was like, no, I have to go back and mark you absent. If you're present in the class when I take attendance, I still have to go back and mark you absent when you leave. I'm required to do that. Stop playing with me, bro. And then I told him, see, in these messages that you're writing to me, you don't punctuate, and I've told you before, to punctuate when you write. We talked about this because that's one of the things I have to teach them. So I said to him, in these messages, go back and edit them and add the punctuation in. And he didn't do it. And he sent the next message, no punctuation. And he sent the next one, no punctuation. Now I'm going somewhere with this. Don't worry, I will land this jet black aircraft. But I'm telling you about this because I'm giving you the clear-cut picture of how much these ninjas don't listen to anybody. And that's why I've entitled this what I've entitled it. Now, Thursday, day before yesterday, I went into a classroom to test out their equipment to see if I could steal or pirate this classroom for one of my classes, to which I must show a lot of things in English, since the board in their class, the display board in their class, fails. It doesn't work. IT came in, fixed it while I was there. 5 minutes later, it conked out again after they left. I said, never mind, I'm not going to call them again because the same thing will happen again. And it's not even the IT guy's fault. They fixed whatever they discovered. That means there's some new shit they didn't know about. And if they fix that, there's probably going to be some new shit again. For all I know, it could have been one of the students in the room that found a way to connect to it. If they know how, they can. And just botched it. It could be that. But I doubt it. So at the end of it all, I had to sit up and try to pirate another classroom. And lo and behold, I thought, you know what? This does work. And I've got this classroom here to myself for now. Let me get some of this marking out of the way and not go back to my office. Because if I go back to my office, people are going to knock on the door and interrupt me, and I'm not going to get this marking done. Before I could close the door to that classroom and be by myself, one of my former students from the class in which they all failed showed up in the doorway. Are you stealing other professors' classrooms again? Because I had to do that when he was my student. Mind you, stealing other professors' classrooms is an exaggeration. If somebody's actually in the classroom with their own class, I don't take it away from them. I'm not bullying other professors trying to punk them out of the classrooms physically or verbally. I'm not doing that. But simply put, he decided to say this as an exaggeration, like it's something wrong with me. I don't tell the administration to schedule my classroom, or schedule my class in a room in which the display board doesn't work. But he decided, because it brought back memories for which I never penalized a single student because it wasn't their fault. He decided to bring that up like it was my fault. And I told him, no, I'm going to look for classrooms that are empty like I did before. But then since there was nobody there, he decided to tell me that the reason his class failed was because of me. I oppressed him, and I said, really? And he brought up some administrative stuff that could have been correct, except it still would not have explained the grades. So he felt entitled to tell me that because of something administrative, really more technological, of which I was unaware because they all didn't tell me this. Every last one of them made it a point to not tell Professor Black about this. And now it's my fault. I went through this dude's head. And he said, you didn't explain. And then he said something about explain too much. Now, here's the problem. His English was so bad that when I corrected him, he said, well, I just wanted to drop the idea. And I said, yeah, well, that's fine in the informal conversation. And this is one. But you still have to know how to say it correctly in a formal context, like an academic university context. You still are supposed to know how to say it correctly. That's what I kept teaching you all. And the only way anybody failed, really, was when they kept repeating the same mistakes. And you all proved to me already that you all knew what was correct and what wasn't. Y'all proved that to me again and again. That's how people got low marks. I would say to y'all, say this the way I taught you. You would think about it. You would say it the way I taught. And then that would be proof that you knew the correct way. You just didn't want to think before you spoke. And you did it again just now. And you want me to sit up here and say, well, it's fine. It's no big deal. Look, I don't know if you ever went. I don't know if you repeated the class and then you passed or not. I don't know. If you had to repeat the class, I know that. If you passed it the second time, fine. If you didn't, it's up to you. I don't particularly care as long as you got what you earned. But the point is that I taught you and you've now shown me that you didn't learn it and you still want me to feel bad about your outcome. See, that's the thing about teaching a language. If the student cannot explain to you in the language you taught them why they should pass the class, they've already proven that they shouldn't. That's why I love this job. And I tell the students, I'm going somewhere with this. There's a saying that my granddad's generation had when they were growing up. But what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? And I'm going to tell you what this has to do with China in general. This guy standing in front of me showed that he can't take accountability. If he jacks up his own lessons and he screws up at what I've been teaching him and doesn't, at no point does he turn around and fix a mother cuss word thing I done taught his stankin' behind. That's who he is. So then the question becomes, why should I feel that he has earned more and he hasn't? Am I supposed to feel bad? But that's what he wanted. He wanted me to think that I had oppressed them and that's why they failed, when the fact is they just kept on speaking Niglibish or Niglibic. Yeah, I think so. No, how could I describe it? Narrablish. Yeah, we'll call it that. Narrablish or Nigrablish. Yeah, that's a good one. Nigrablish is the best way to describe the way they speak. Not quite English, because it's so jacked up from the influences of not even real Arabic, but just the Nigrabic they speak. So between a substandard but still grammatically sound form of their own language, Arabic, and then the jacked up English they speak because they were taught this a generation ago and they don't know that it's bad, but then they don't unlearn mistakes for corrections. They are sitting up here just far behind. I mean, just really far behind, jacked up, and looking at us like we just owe them extra grades that they're never going to earn on an objective and fair exam because they're not learning, because they're consistently repeating the exact same mistakes that we taught them how to avoid, how to fix, how to correct, how to not repeat. And they keep looking at us and saying, we're going to repeat the same thing. The women in China about whom we've heard recently went to a restaurant and could not pay a $28 bill and started inviting others to pay the bill for them. They were so used to having others pay their bills for them without them having to do any of that work themselves. They were so accustomed to that and acclimated to that that when it was time for them to pay their own mother cuss word bills, they didn't even have it. They showed up fully expecting to not even need their own money. Somebody will pay it for us. They didn't even plan for no one to do it. And the men that were there did not answer this call to jump in and pay their bill. And I applaud those men for that. Father, what should they? But in the conversation that we have seen with the translation dubbed into it, you can hear where the woman sets up and says, well, you're bullying us. You're oppressing us. We're in the right. You're in the wrong. Pretty much demanding to eat for free. And then the same thing happens when it comes down to, she says, I'm an angel. She's an angel. That bitch is so nonsensical that you wonder if she's playing around. I'm an angel. No, she's not. And she sits there and tells you she is an angel, like this is okay, and she's not. Like she could possibly be one, like you could actually logically look at her and be convinced of such, and we can't. They can't take accountability. Your ass went to a restaurant. They trusted you like they trust everyone else to pay when you're done eating. And then when you were done eating, you couldn't pay. And then tried everything except saying, I screwed up, I effed up, I should go to jail or wash dishes or something to pay for it. That's exactly what the fuck happened. Just like this former student of mine with his jacked up Negroblish. Telling me I just wanted to drop the idea. You understand me, I understand you, that's enough. That's enough for an informal conversation. That is not enough for academic success. Not when you chose to go to a university and spent $8,000 of your dad's money to learn to use it correctly. If you don't like that curriculum, take your ass to a university that doesn't even demand you learn English, nigga. They got them out here. His English was so bad. Not that I didn't understand anything he said, but his English was so bad when he came to me to tell me this unaccountable stuff that he couldn't make clear to me whether I over-explained it or under-explained English according to what he said. Here's the kicker. His class all went to my bosses to say the same thing. I didn't explain English. Really? Behind their backs, 3 students went individually. They don't even know each other. 3 of them went at 3 different times to the president and vice president and the head of my department, the university's president and the vice president and the head of my department. And then one went also to my immediate chair, the immediate one to whom I answer, to tell them that what the class said together was a father-mucking lie. Professor Jet Black did explain English. They just didn't fix their damn mistakes. Some of them went back and even said, it's not his fault. He taught it. He explained it. He told us. And they snitched on the students that wouldn't let anybody learn. Mostly Shaitan, the student we nicknamed Satan. Nigga was so bad, I told y'all, he's the one that sent someone to finally take his exit exam. And I caught the dude because I knew he wasn't Satan. He holding Satan's test paper in front of him. I'm like, wait a minute, this is somebody else's paper. I need to give you your paper. What's your name, bro? He gonna sit up and say, Satan. That's me. Oh, really? I covered the paper up because the name was printed on the paper before him. I covered it up and I said, what's your dad's name, Satan? Hassan. Really? What's your student ID number? He rattled off Satan's student ID number. This nigga had memorized all this stuff. Whole time not realizing I was Satan's teacher, so I knew he wasn't him. I wish I could make this up. I told y'all, I told some of y'all about the story in depth back when it happened on the Jet Black Air Lounge. I don't remember saying too much about it on YouTube except mentioning it happened. But the story, I'm sure, is in detail on the Jet Black Air Lounge. The other students went and ratted out Satan as one of the main culprits that would not let the lessons go on. This nigga that was sitting up telling me on Thursday that I didn't explain it, either over-explained it or under-explained it. The English there was really not clear because he didn't learn a goddamn thing. That guy he probably missed about 8 days out the semester, just not being there. But the nigga, when he was there, would spend half the class time out in the hallway doing God knows what. He'd walk back in, what page are we on? Nigga, you been gone for 20 minutes. I'm supposed to mark you absent for that. What I'm saying to you is that we are not equal to those who can't take accountability. Black men have not been allowed to not take accountability when we're innocent. That's the black man in Africa, by the way. That's the black man in the Caribbean, the black man in North America, the black man in South America. This is black men in general. We are not allowed. Some places black women ain't either, but black men are not allowed to deny accountability when we're innocent. We didn't do it. And we're not supposed to sit up and say we didn't do it. And this is so ingrained in us that when I was in middle school, I went through this complex where I just accepted blame for stuff I didn't do because I got in trouble for something I didn't do. I was stupid, but I wasn't guilty of that particular thing. And I couldn't prove it. And I just felt so guilty for not being able to prove my innocence. I started just accepting blame for stuff I didn't do. And when somebody started hinting that I probably like boys instead of girls, that's when I drew the line and said, no, see, now it's going too far. I was catching whippings from my parents for stuff I didn't do. I developed a complex, and I know I'm not the only one. Because ain't nothing special about me. I'm just willing to sit up and say, yeah, I know we went through this. You didn't know anybody else went through this. I know we went through it collectively, so go ahead and tell your story. Let these other brothers know how collective this problem is. And if I still had that mindset, today's time, this kid would have come up, told me this, and I would have accepted responsibility for what I did not do wrong. Now, for what I did do wrong, I've already accepted it. But that's not what caused them to fail. They failed because they never fixed their mistakes in the English language. And they did not belong in the advanced level to begin with. That wasn't my fault they were there, but they didn't fix mistakes. Good students that meant well didn't fix mistakes because they're still Arab males, and Arab males are stubborn. Some of them just needed more time to fix mistakes. They just needed another semester. That happens a lot too. That happens to a lot of the males here in this society because they fossilize. They don't want to think before they speak. So they keep saying the same things wrong, and when they do it on an exam, it costs them points. Hey, dumbass, that's not how you say it. I taught you this before. Well, during an exam, you can't say, hey, that was wrong. So they repeat the mistake. You're not allowed to correct them during the exam. They fail. And it's audio recorded, and it's put up onto the electronic platform of the class. So my boss can log in, listen to what they said on the speaking test, and see that I graded them correctly. And if I give them lenient marks, I might only get away with that if I give them feedback in that electronic platform that tells them what to do, what not to do. And that's if it's maybe their first speaking test. Second and third speaking tests, we have to grade them strictly. We have to. We have to say, hey, you know what? You knew about this, you knew about that. You said it anyway because you're used to saying it. Stop it. You lost points. They don't take accountability. These niggas are not our equals. Sisters don't take accountability in many cases. They're not our equals. The ones that don't take it are not equals to us. And when do they take accountability? And now you're seeing that the women in China are trained to not take accountability. How the hell are they our equals? This is why I tell you, black men, you got to look at different cultures and see how these women react and how they behave, and then find out which ones are your equals and which ones are not. On a cultural collective level, the Chinese woman is not your equal. I don't say that because they're light-skinned. I say that because they're not suitable for black men on average. I don't say this because no individual Chinese woman can be an exception. Of course they can be. But what I'm telling you is that if you happen to go there and you found someone that's compatible, that's okay. But what would you be doing going there to look for someone, seeing that this is a culture? Why should you not do that? Because if you go looking for someone, those women are going to then flock to you because you're seeking. And it's the ones that don't take accountability that are going to flock to you. You don't want that. Good women have trouble taking accountability sometimes when you point out an error. Good people in general have that issue. If they were trying not to screw something else and they find out they screwed something else up anyway, then sometimes they're just not sure it was them. Like I'm being careful not to make a mess somewhere because I'm at somebody else's house and I'm eating, and then somebody points to a stain that I left that I dropped. I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Did I actually do that? Sometimes I just doubt it was me because I was being careful. That's when you're a good person and you're just not sure it was you because you were trying to be careful. How much more so when they got friends that are not quite as good and they're just used to ducking and dodging accountability and never taking it. And understand, the ones that never take accountability are the ones that will turn around and do the most wrong, like this nigga that had the nerve to tell me on Thursday what he did. He was always interrupting when he was in a class, trying to distract me from the lesson. He always did that when he was in class. If he wasn't doing it, he wasn't in class. Or he might have sat in the back of class and he would distract somebody else talking to them in Arabic. And in my class, you're not allowed to use Arabic. That's who this dude was. Now he wants to tell me that I either underexplained or overexplained, and he can't really say which one in English, but that it was their fault, that it was my fault that they failed. No. I poured over their grades. I poured over all of the things they did that we had to grade to see if there was evidence that they would improve if I let them go. And there wasn't. And I could have been reviewed for that. There was no evidence that they were going to improve. I was giving them feedback so they could improve, and they wouldn't do it. They needed another semester, every goddamn one of them, especially this nigga. He was about the fourth or fifth worst in the class. This nigga never fixed a mistake without you saying, hey, go back and fix that. There was no mistake this nigga fixed on his own. And when it came to exams, there was no mistake that nigga fixed, period, because you can't correct them during the exams. Without you standing over him and saying, hey, what did I teach you about this? He was never going to fix a goddamn mistake this nigga made, even now. Even now, on Thursday, this nigga sounded like he did the first day I met his stankin' ass. Can't take accountability. I'm only using him as an example because you all know somebody like this. You got him at your jobs. Some of them are your bosses. You are the bosses to some of them. You are married to some of them. Some of them are your daughters. Some of them are your moms. I would say some of your dads or your fathers. I would say that, but one, that's already been said even when it's not true. And two, it's not allowed to be true so many times. So most of your sons would never be allowed to just always duck and dodge accountability. And if you don't hold them accountable, the rest of the world still would. Your dads weren't allowed to duck and dodge accountability, most of them. So you're rare if you have a dad or a son that really has no sense of accountability. Keeps ducking and dodging. But what I am going to tell you is that people as a collective that don't have it are not your equals. And I'm telling you, you got to watch cultures for that reason. Indians and Egyptians don't have a sense of accountability until a white person's holding them accountable. There are ways to say, excuse me, or pardon me, or forgive me, or I'm sorry, or I apologize in their languages. You can say these things in their languages. But they don't say them to black people in general. They don't say them to people darker skinned than themselves on average. I don't know how much of that is conscious. Without it being a conscious thought, there's still the subconscious motivation. I'm not talking about the south of India, but the north and Egypt, the north of Egypt especially. Yes, that them niggas don't say I'm sorry. And I know because I've dealt with them before. They have it in their languages. They just don't say it. Hell, some of them don't say it to anybody, period. Doesn't matter who the hell you're talking to. Have I not told you that culturally speaking, they are not your equal? Because no matter how jacked up our culture can be at times in certain zip codes, we know we ain't shit. When we ain't shit, we know it. They think that their corruption is better than your honesty and professionalism in organization. They really think that. I'm not joking. The Indian that bobbles his head, which does not clearly mean yes or no as far as any of us can tell, really truly believes that that head movement is superior to a clear head nod of yes or a head shake of no, which is generally the case in most cultures. Very few exceptions. I think Bulgaria is one of them. Other than that, that's pretty clear. Yes, you nod up and down, no, shake your head side to side. And what they came up with a head movement that combines the two, which is fine for them as long as they understand it. But then they really think that's superior to a clear yes or no in every other culture. They think that which is not as effective is superior to that which is. I shit you not. I don't like trashing them and just boo-booing on them for nothing. I don't like doing it even when they deserve it. But I'm telling you, black men, you got to understand that you, the black men of the black manosphere, because you ain't shit. Because you aren't a low life. You're not a stereotype. Or actually culturally superior to people who don't fivaguk what they do simply because you care what you do. You care about what kind of culture we're creating right now for each other to pass on to the kids of the BMPTs. Be it the Passport Bros or the SYSBM men or IBMOR or BMGTOW, black men going our own way. You care about this sort of thing. That's part of why I told the Black Manosphere that it is perfectly okay to be aware of what makes black nationalities distinct and to throw aside the division, because frankly, the things we care about are the things that other black men of other nationalities who want cooperation with each other care about. Not passing on nigger dysfunction because the bitches like it. They don't take accountability. How dare they get to decide what kind of culture we're bound to pass on to the kids when it's already failed and they themselves don't like it. They don't like it. When they pass it on, they don't like it. When that single mom tells her son to love and respect single moms and to pick them before he ever picks a woman that ain't got no kids, so he can be a dad before he's a stepdad. When that woman does that, she doesn't like it. She just does it anyway because she knows what she did and she doesn't want to take accountability. That's all it is. And you and I are sitting here watching them pass down that which they don't even like themselves. As if we owe it to them to continue passing on this sugarnit because in the name of some nigger loyalty. That's not even race loyalty. Just nigger culture loyalty. So that they never have to take the accountability that you and I watched them refuse to take. That the Chinese women are now showing they will not take. And that even some of the most conservative Muslims, according to stereotypes on the planet, will not take. They won't do it. And some of them, the funny thing is that when some of them do, they have to hide from the rest. The three that went behind the backs of the rest of the class and said, we were in here lying earlier, but that part was the lie, have to hide from the other students. I know who two of them are. I don't know who the third one is. Third one told the administrators to not even tell me. And he was covering for my ass, even though it wasn't something he should have had to do. Because he wasn't lying when he did it. He was telling the truth. No, he explained it. He went into the classroom and explained it. And my bosses heard it anyway. They heard me on the hallway talking to them, telling them, that's not how you say this. That's not what this means. All right, write this proper spelling down, and I'm going to give you the other parts of speech that come from the same root of this particular word. Commune. Community. All right, take this word down. So you saw the word unity. And also there's a word union. And then there is the verb unify. I would tell them, and they heard me. And they saw the chart, because I gave these words in a chart to the students. And they saw it uploaded. But the students that told the damn truth, which the administrators were able to see anyway, had to hide from the other students, couldn't tell them. And they failed. These students that went back and told also failed. They didn't pass. They just didn't want students lying on me. But those who had that sense of accountability had to hide. And it is like that in China. The women who do have a sense of accountability got to hide from the other hyena monkey bitches. Egyptians who have a sense of accountability and don't go around trying to scam people have to hide from other Egyptians because they will be questioned. Why did you tell him that particular price? You could have lied and said that you got it for more, that it cost you more just to buy it, let alone to sell it to him. You didn't do that. Now they're going to come and ask all of us what deals we can offer. Screw you, you're a traitor. Yeah, it's like that. Indians? Let an Indian show a sense of accountability to a dark Indian, let alone someone of African origin, and watch the other say, you apologize to that nigga? To that black monkey? Yeah, that's what they call us. Bandar Kali or Bandara Kali. Now, Bandar is a name in Arabic. It's a person's name. But in the Urdu language, Bandar means monkey. Bandara is the plural. And they will call us Bandara Kali. And why did you apologize to that Bandar or that Kali Bandar? Why would you do that? F is wrong with you. You didn't have to tell them you're sorry because you know it's a big thing to have to say you're sorry to them, even when you are. And we're going to have to start looking at cultures based on this. Not that we blame them for stuff they didn't do to test them, but just knowing about particular cultures and seeing, does the culture of this particular person I'm considering favor accountability? And if the culture does not, does this particular person favor accountability, or is this person bound to the culture and therefore it's just like the collective? Is this person going to be an exception, or is this person going to be the collective? That's one of the main ways you're going to have to start picking black men. It's one of the main things you got to start looking for. Because if not, you are going to feel regret for the rest of your life. Because understand that the ones who are willing to duck and dodge accountability, though they may not come seeking you out all the time collectively, they will still comprise the majority of the ones that do come to seek you out. Some of these white women that love brothers and chase brothers are doing so because they'd rather do that than be accountable for their weight and their physique. They still view you as inferior. And that's why when someone comes from a culture that is not generally friendly to us, you got to watch their behinds when they do come and seek you out. And that's why I tell you, brothers, don't even make a lot of approaches in a lot of traditional environments. Don't do it. I tell you that not because I'm mean, because I'm just scared. I tell you that because I'm scared for you. That's the reason I say it. Don't go to India and start looking for somebody. At least not the North. South, you tell me, but about the North, I know. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Why do I say it? Because you go there, you start looking for somebody. The ones that might even seek you out are probably going to be the ones that could not take accountability for something according to the standards of their own people. And they may not even be wrong in order to need to take accountability. But are they viewing you as an escape from something? Is that your job? They're looking at you as a rescue? Could you look to them to rescue you from anything? But they'll come looking for you to be a rescue. You got to be careful about that. And it goes like that for them Karens and Beckys and Ambers too. It's the same thing. There are those that are interested in you and will chase you down because they're interested. But there are many who, because they don't do this with their own men, even when they like them. So you gotta double check, because there are those who will come, they'll see you and they know that there's something about which they would need to take accountability to get one of their own men. And they're just like, they can't do it. And so then they come to you rather than take accountability. As a matter of fact, let me tell you all this. When you see this accountability in them, or the lack of it, Right now, the black and white manospheres alike are busy telling, I wouldn't say busy telling, but have casually actually stated what their standards are. And the reason why these ladies get upset about these standards is because of the lack of accountability, the absence of it. They actually believe in the opposite of it. They don't just not believe in accountability, they believe in the opposite of accountability, getting away with stuff they would not tolerate from someone else. That is actually their belief. I'm not recording this just because they don't believe in accountability. I'm recording this because they actually are actively seeking to get away with stuff they would not tolerate from somebody else. Those Chinese women that couldn't pay a $28 bill, between all of them together, were actively seeking to get away with stuff that they wouldn't tolerate for somebody else. You better never show up expecting them to pay for a restaurant bill. But they're going to do the same thing, because they're judging their worth by how much they can get away with someone else. So when I tell you that the unaccountable can never be your equal, it is because you are actually dealing with those who seek the opposite of accountability, because they're judging their value based on being treated as though they are superior to you. They don't believe in equality. They believe that you're already inferior to them. And just like a racist who thinks that and therefore becomes inferior because they don't believe in equality, I'm telling you, it's the same thing with D's, O's, regardless of their origin. If they don't believe that you as a man are their equal, they're automatically inferior. That's what I'm trying to get y'all to realize. They're not your moral equal because they can't see the equality that applies to people by just default and by the rules. Yeah, people make different moral decisions that make us superior and inferior, and we go up and down, but they don't see the default equality and the equal applicability of the same rules to the same to different people in the same situations. They don't even understand that. As far as they are concerned, you are inferior and you owe them because you are a man. They think that God is sexist and misandrous. How can they be equal to you when you don't attribute such ill sins to God? How could that be the case? How can they be your equal? That's why I entitled this Unaccountable Means Unequal. Stop tolerating that in them. You may not ever expect him to accept accountability, but God damn it, demand it anyway. Because if they actually are adults, they can do that. That means that when they duck and dodge accountability, it's not because they can't take it, it's because they simply won't. And that makes it even worse. They're not children. They're capable of taking it. They just don't want to. The only reason as adults that they would be incapable of it is if they go too long in their lives never having done so, rendering themselves incapable. That's still their fault because they made themselves that way as adults. Do not tolerate this from them, even if you don't expect it. Look, if you don't expect the women of a particular environment to ever accept accountability, then leave all them bitches alone. If you think, okay, from this society, if there's a woman that'll take accountability, I'll never meet her. They're too rare. If you can observe that and say that with conviction, then look at all of them and say that I'm not dealing with any of them on a personal level like this. No romance, no sex, no marriage, no cohabitation, no sharing of finances, none of these things. You keep them at a distance because you already know they're coming from that particular culture. What is it going to be every time? No accountability. Keep that in mind. And in this way, you can make wiser choices. We can make wiser choices. I hope that what I've said helps, and thank you for being patient with me on this long ass jet black air flight. As always, black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction of judgment day. Thank you for flying with us here again on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.